The film opens in LB, Texas, where an elderly man drags a tub of Bibles to a lake. He records a haunting final message for his daughter, Naomi, before walking into the water to end his life. 9 years later, Naomi is a weary bar singer struggling with alcohol and a fading career. Her young son, Dylan, begs to return to California, but their lives take a dark turn when their goat, Samos, suddenly bites him. While Dylan recovers, a tense normal returns, yet he begins hearing whispering voices in the dark. To comfort him, Naomi searches the attic and finds a hidden box containing old photos, a key, and a cassette tape. Playing it late at night, she hears her father's confession to the murder of Royce Cobb. He warns her that if rats ever appear on the property, it means the danger has returned. The tape reveals Cobb's body is buried on the property, land intended to protect the next generation. While scouting the grounds, Naomi is interrupted by Dylan, who claims something is seizing control of his mind. The next morning, the omen appears, a rat in the garden. Dylan admits his head feels wrong, and Naomi's research shows Cobb is still listed as missing. Digging where the rat appeared, she unearths a buried cross. Later, a strange woman at Dylan's school points at her and whispers, "It's you." That night, Naomi finds Dylan in a trance as a dark shadow creeps along the walls. A horrific nightmare of Cobb dragging Dylan away convinces her that her father's past is hunting her son. She invites Grayson to dinner and reveals the suspicious accident that killed her husband. She describes Dylan's eerie transformation, but Grayson remains skeptical until he hears about her father's recorded confession. Suddenly, Dylan walks out in total silence. The next day, he ignores Naomi entirely while boarding the bus. Grayson later returns with Llewellyn, the woman from the school, who is revealed to be Cobb's daughter. She explains that her father became a violent stranger obsessed with a spiritual debt before his disappearance. She warns that Cobb's restless spirit will never let go. The situation spirals when the principal reveals Dylan brought Samos's severed head to school. Furious, Naomi defends her son against bullying and pulls him from class. At home, Dylan calmly admits he enjoys decapitating animals. That night, Naomi finds a hidden studio in Dylan's room where he claims to meet his grandfather's friend. After a night spent in terror, Naomi finds a figure under a sheet she assumes is Dylan, only to discover it is Royce Cobb. Naomi retreats with Dylan, staying awake to guard him, but wakes to find her alarm disabled and Dylan gone. Grayson arrives with documents, and Naomi finally confesses everything, leading him to the buried cross. In the woods, they find a tree carving where Naomi's bark fragment fits perfectly, revealing the number 13. Recalling her grandfather's use of Freemason codes, Naomi uses old blueprints to trace a triangle pointing to the dining room floor. Beneath the boards, they find her lost locket, convincing Grayson the haunting is tied to their bloodline. Their search ends when they find a compartment of bones that spell out Harling, the name of her father's old church associate. Naomi and Grayson present their evidence to Officer Armour, who confirms Cobb's criminal history and officially opens an investigation. However, the terror intensifies at home as her father's recorded confession blasts from the TV and scratching sounds emanate from the attic. Upstairs, Naomi finds Dylan in a trance, surrounded by thousands of swarming rats and Samos's severed head. After narrowingly escaping a collapsing floor and reading the message, "The debt becomes due," she pulls Dylan to safety. Seeking answers, Naomi confronts Harling, who reveals a dark 1950s pact involving a child kidnapper named Piper. In a deal of 5 lives for 5 acres, only Naomi's father and Cobb survived. Harling explains that the cycle can only be broken with blood, and warns that the darkness is now coming for Dylan. The situation worsens when Llewellyn discovers the truth about her father's murder, and the school calls to report that Dylan has vanished along with another student, Nathan. Rejecting the police's runaway theory, Naomi and Grayson search the woods and find brutally killed pigeons. Harling eventually arrives to perform a ritual, confirming that a spirit has taken Dylan. He tells Naomi the only way to save her son is to undergo a traditional biblical baptism in the nearby lake. With no other choice, Naomi follows Grayson and Harling to the lake and plunges into the freezing water. Beneath the surface, she envisions her late husband urging her to save her son at any cost. When she surfaces, she's alone. Grayson and Harling have vanished. Guided by instinct, she pushes deeper into the forest until she finds a decaying, isolated house, remembering Harling's warning that spirits are drawn to abandoned places. Using her father's key, Naomi enters the rotting house and hears Dylan's voice. She avoids the piper and reaches the basement, where the walls are marked with the words, "The debt is due." After a brutal struggle with the piper, Naomi manages to unlock a door and free Dylan, along with the other missing children. However, the piper knocks her unconscious and chases the fleeing children towards the lake. Naomi regains consciousness and finds them at the water's edge. The piper overpowers Naomi, holding her under until a vision of her husband and the sight of her locket provide a final burst of strength. She turns the fight around, drowning the piper until he stops moving. Grayson and Harling arrive just in time to pull her and Dylan to safety. The next morning, a fragile calm settles as Dylan appears free from the spirit's grip. However, the horror has changed its shape. By killing Piper and crossing into that dark realm, Naomi has unknowingly become vulnerable to his influence. Harling is the first to grasp the terrifying truth. The spirit doesn't just target children, it uses adults, exploiting their authority to control others. Piper's true plan is finally revealed. He wanted to create a world where children are left without parents, condemned to grow up in abandonment just as he once was. In the film's chilling final moments, Naomi, now fully possessed, begins leading the townspeople towards the lake. Her voice is calm and her presence reassuring as she gently guides them into the water, intent on dragging them all into the depths together. Somewhere behind her, Dylan calls out for his mother, but she is already gone. And that is where the story ends.